9.
10 to 9.
Yeah, was it 10 to 9? Okay, yeah. So I was like, by the time I went in the door to the granny house, it was like 9:25. Are we ready? Sarah's looking at us. Like it, Sarah.
It's February 29th, and we'll start our goal setting meeting. Juvenile.
Yes. Yes, let me just get my stuff here. Good morning. I won't go over the mission. It's the same as it was last time. We're just here to protect, keep the community safe as far as juvenile crime goes. The goals I haven't changed much because we're still in the process of implementing them. So we have started our new processes and policies and procedures for intake. We now have a process where we get the police report, youth come in, we do an hour-long interview with families and kids to find out where they are on the risk scale, so that we are not putting kids in the court system that maybe could be handled through diversion. It's cut back on our court time tremendously, which I think has been a huge help for our district attorney's office. And quite honestly, it's better for the youth in the community. We did start some new risk assessments this year in January. All staff has been trained in those risk assessments. I sat on the board for with the Department of Justice to create the screening tool for Senate Bill 745, which is human and sex trafficking for all juveniles. So every juvenile that comes through our door that we have contact with, we are now required to do a screening for human trafficking, for sex trafficking. So I sat on that board to help create that tool. So our staff is very familiar and aware of what that tool looks like. We've been rocking and rolling with that. The CEIT, which is what I talked about before, which stands for Commercial Exploitation of, I wrote it down because I always get it wrong. Exploitation identification tool, which is sort of best practice across the state. So if a youth scores high on the assessment, they should have this CEIT tool. In this part of the state, Deschutes County is the only place that has people who are trained in that CEIT tool. As of 2 weeks ago, there are 3 people in our office that are now trained and qualified to do the CEIT on youth. So this side of the mountain, Eastern Oregon, Crook County has the 3 people who are trained to do that tool for juveniles. So I think that's a huge thing for us. We did get a new department motto. It is encouraging positive choices, building better futures. The staff and I worked on that a lot. That's what we voted on. I think it fits our department very well. We are working with Kelly on a new website with hyperlinks to create social media. So Kelly came and met with us Tuesday, I apologize. She'll meet with us again this Tuesday. So we're hoping by the end of the week, our website will look much different than it does now. We'll have all of our forms that our families can go in there and look and print off and do so prior to coming to our office. So we're not trying to do the old school paper back and forth. And we are still, our plan is to have a new transport vehicle before July.
Yeah, like sometimes back into
Yeah, there you go. So we have started our revenue. We have started our automatic expansion for misdemeanors. January 1, from January 1 till today, we 4,000 is what we've generated. I think we're getting ready to bill. We only bill every 3 or 4 months. So we're getting ready to bill again. I didn't check with Tracy to see what that number was, so that will be more updated in the next couple of weeks. I can let you guys know. As you can see, that's the variance in the revenue. We're not a revenue office department. And so the 11,000 we've gotten so far, or the 15,000 gotten so far from exfunctions, we're really excited about. Hoping that can be more. 2/3 of our budget is staffing. We do still have that open vacancy filled, or to be filled when we move to the Justice Center. This is one of the things that we are looking a little bit more forward to. In 26, we budgeted for another full-time staff member. After some consideration, With that 0.5 vacancy, what I would like to propose is to make that a full-time and take that full-time person off on 26 and make that half-time a full-time position. And make that a certified alcohol and drug counselor. Reverse, the reason that has become a need is because we have a gap in services. There's a couple gap in services, but one of those is our drug and alcohol treatment. Rimrock does our drug and alcohol treatment here in town. However, they are completely bombarded and there's wait lists, 3 and 4 weeks long to get our kids in. We've had 41 formal referrals to our office since January 1, which is a lot. Those are just police referrals. Of those 41, 22 are drug and alcohol related. So over half of them are coming to us with drug and alcohol related issues. And we are having a hard time getting our kids in to get the assessments for drug and alcohol. So if we had that in our office, we could get our assessments done. They could run outpatient groups. They could carry that caseload of youth that just need drug and alcohol services rather than dispersing those throughout all of the other counselors and trying to get these kids in assessments that quite frankly take months to get them in. I just talked about Senate Bill 745. We work closely with the APP project, which is the anti-trafficking project. They are tri-county.
Erica, how big of a trafficking problem do we have here?
It's pretty substantial. Yes, I did with our new training in the SEAT, we are going to have our numbers be part of that whole Central Oregon number. In the past, I just got an email from Ashley at the App Project. They would take our kids who are on that border, right? Like we don't suspect any trafficking, but they're at risk of being trafficked or at risk of taking part in that. Their caseloads are so full now, they only can take confirmed trafficking victims in Central Oregon. So that number just continues to grow and grow. And one of the problems is that I think trafficking to most people looks like the scary guy who kidnaps the girl and sort of sells her. In rural Oregon and what our situation looks like is young people who are trading, their bodies for drugs, for goods, for a place to sleep, for food, to get their basic needs met. And so that number, depending on how you look at trafficking, that number is pretty high for our area. I think currently we just had some kids that left. I think our highest number was about 6 kids. 6 youth in our county that were working with the App Project at one time. So I think for Crook County, that's a pretty substantial number because you think about the youth that we don't come in contact with that may be having those types of issues. It's something that we all should be aware of, which is why there's a big push in Oregon to sort of identify those youth and get them services.
That's something we could do locally if they're not gonna statewide put together something.
Yeah, right now, what we're very fortunate because we do have the anti-trafficking project here in Central Oregon because when working with other counties outside Central Oregon, they really have limited resources. Even some of the bigger counties have some limited resources. I'm not sure why the App Project chose Central Oregon, but we are very fortunate because they really are experts in this area. And so we've been able to connect kids with resources that other counties haven't been able to do. So we'll watch how the numbers grow and what that looks like, but I think right now we're in a pretty sweet spot.
Are you working with Nina Bell?
So she is on, yes, she's on a few of so she has her project is a little bit different. She does all of the stickers that you see in bathrooms, well, not all of them, but so if you need help, call these numbers. Her focus is on all, adults and juveniles, which is still the App Project as well. But the nice thing about the App Project is they have a whole CSEC section, which is just juvenile. So they have people who are really experts in just juvenile human trafficking.
But you're saying these people aren't being like, they don't have somebody that they're doing it for, they're doing it themselves.
Right. We've had both here.
Okay.
And yes, we have. We had a young lady in our community that was being trafficked in Portland area in Eastern Oregon, in Idaho. And so we do have some youth that do participate in the traditional, what it would look like, for lack of a better term, a pimp with buyers. But right now, a lot of our girls look like, we haven't had any boys yet, but any youth look like, they're meeting men on Tinder, from Portland or whatever. Those men are coming here, bringing gifts, bringing money. You know what I mean? It's that kind of situation that's happening. So yes, they're kind of doing it for themselves, but
Not that that makes any better.
right, but at the end of the day, these are young people.
I know, and it's Facebook, but did you see the thing on Facebook where the woman was in Raise and Checkout and the lady was taking pictures of her children, and then when she went out into the parking lot, a man came up and confronted her, and anyway, and then the advice was, call the sheriff immediately, and then I saw that a 4-year-old, someone walked out of Target with a 4-year-old and luckily, are we having stuff like that? That's kind of frightening.
It is very frightening. We have not seen any of those. I'm sure the sheriff may have seen other issues that we have not seen that. What we're mostly seeing is young people putting themselves out there, and which could very well end up in a situation where, you're meeting a man from Portland and you're never seen again. We currently have a 12-year-old on the run, and we know that she's been in Madras and in Bend, and we just got word that she might be in Eugene. So, she's 12. I don't know how she's getting to those places. She doesn't have a lot of resources. So those are the types of things we're seeing. They run from home, and then to get their basic needs met, they're willing to trade whatever. And at 12 and 14, your goods are your body. All of this you guys have seen. We have been accessing funding for detention programs, which is our Norcor 30-day program, our Josephine 30-day program. We've sent 3 youth this last quarter, which Kojak, which is the Central and Eastern Oregon consortium of counties, they have funded those 3 placements. So we are getting kids into placements that isn't coming out of our dollars. They're coming out of, the joint pool of dollars, which I think is great because we're getting kids services using money that's already out there. And the utilize informal sanctions for first-time low-risk offenders goes back to our intake process. We've done, I think we've had 41 new cases. We are trying to handle 75% of those in some sort of diversion, because a lot of these are first-time offenders, or they're drug and alcohol offenses, which we are trying to handle as outside the court system in diversion, get them services, and hopefully they don't come back for a formal referral in our office. So number of youth complete, that's always our goal, number of youth completing as complete and successful. Our data has been limited up until recently, so we just started really in our office tracking, which is why I can give those hard numbers of 41 and then 22 drug and alcohol. Prior to that, it was through our juvenile justice system. And those reports it's kind of hard to get accurate information because if a kid's been expunged, their data is no longer reflected in our numbers. If you put like a weird age group in there, they won't pull all the kids if they have a definite, so it's really hard to get accurate information. So our office has started taking like real-time accurate tracking, which has been very eye-opening, I think, for all of us to see. Because before it's kind of like we kind of guess, we're always like fuzzy around the edges, and now we know it's been 41 formal referrals and 22 of those have been drug and alcohol related offenses. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? I kind of feel like I just rambled.
That's good. Oh, the only thing, how's the girls circle deal going?
So we have one person in our office, Jill, and she's still running girl circles. She's running them with the elementary school, so a little bit younger target area, because we had been receiving phone calls from the elementary schools repeatedly about coming in to help youth. And we're really trying to stay, we want kids not below 11 in our office. And so one of the ways we sort of offered is through Girl Circle. So for those younger kids that we're getting calls on, they're not coming to school, or they're constantly being an issue. We've offered Girl Circle in the elementary schools, and that has bridged that gap a little bit. We still get those phone calls. I think as the sheriff's office and DA's office can attest to, I think the numbers are, the out of control, I guess is the word I want, is getting younger and younger and younger. So before, you know, the youngest kid we'd hear about would be 8 or 9. Now we're getting calls on kindergartners that they can't keep, you know, maintained in the classroom. So, you know, I hope that's not the trend of the future, but I feel like those phone calls are coming more and more often. And what we're seeing a lot, and maybe this is gonna age me, but, you know, we have quite a few youth that we had their parents as juveniles. So I don't know if it's just, you know, how they go, if they go into those phases. I know you're laughing, they go in these phases, but I have actually the last couple of months, I've been quite shocked at how many parents' names I recognize. So it's really trying to break that generational, you know, which is very hard to do when it's generational poverty and generational criminal activity.
I bet you were excited to see the DARE program back.
Yes,
I
yeah.
bet in the future, you'll hopefully be able to tie some things back.
Yes, fingers crossed. I think any resources we can get like that for kids, I think is huge. Crook County does a fantastic job of working together. Community partners work together very well here. And I think we all try to offer, you know, help each other out with services. And law enforcement has been fantastic with us. The SROs that we have, the sheriff's office, they are always willing to come down and talk to kids when we feel like a kid just needs somebody to talk to, or, you know, respond when youth have reported things. So I have no complaints as far as that's concerned. I just, you know, our resources are getting, as far as mental health goes, we still are at a huge lack. We have a lot of mental health cases that are going untreated the way they need to, because there just aren't any resources in Oregon for youth. And we don't have any local resources other than just outpatient best care. So when a kid needs residential treatment, they are no longer in our community. So that would be something that I also think would be huge, is if we could get some sort of residential type thing for mental health youth, even if it's a day treatment. But that's not my lane. So we're just trying to work together with mental health and figure out what we can do with wrap services and whatnot. So do you have anything else?
Could you use some help getting a transport vehicle?
I would love some help. But what happens with the transport vehicle is it keeps getting pushed to the back burner. I have, you know, like, it's like, okay, I have 3 bids, you know, I go and get 3 bids, and then what happens is, you know, then the world blows up. And so then, you know, that gets pushed to the back burner. But I will have it before July 1st. We do have a car that has over like 230,000 miles on it. It's not working very well. All the lights are on, so that one needs to go out to pasture, and we need to bring in a new vehicle.
I think one with about 100,000, 120,000, and start some
Yeah.
stickers. There you go.
What about 150?
I would prefer to have a new car, so that, because we are, like I just said, going back to, we transport our kids all over the state. You know, we've been using Josephine County a lot, so going to Grants Pass and back is a big haul for kids. And so, yeah, the SUV that we currently have is not leaving town, because it's not even going up to Juniper Canyon at this point, because I'm afraid we're gonna get a call that we're stranded out there. So yes, that would be something. And we would love a Durango. I mean, it has a little bit more space in the back with the cage. So we have all the things planned out. I will get to it before July 1st. That is my ultimate goal.
And she had a little.
Oh, yeah.
And all the lights are on here, and you be.
I know.
That's the goal.
They keep coming in, they're like, should we take it to Kings? I'm like, no, we're getting rid of that car. Like, we're just gonna drive it till it's just dead in the parking lot.
I think it's dead, I just don't think it's dead.
Yeah, it makes some kind of funny noises sometimes, but we did get that new van last time, and that has been huge. So if we can just get this last old vehicle out, bring a new vehicle in, I think we'll be good to go. So, yeah.
You ready? No?
Yes, unless you have any other questions.
You can hang up with us.
I don't know if you want me to chat on your.
Bill would love you to chat. See if I can figure out how to work the slides do the things.
I don't know why that's lighting up on me. No team chat, that's why.
I know, like a little remote.
We've got a lot of button pushers over here, boss.
Not yet. Bill, I saw you getting ready.
Ready to go. I'm glad you're good at this, because I'm not.
So it should be set up, that's just now left and right arrow. If it does not work, sometimes you just have to click into the screen again and then it will
You need to call.
connect with the.
Copy that. And then
I have questions
Do the face
for it.
or
I have
Eric,
part
give
of
it
the
to
house.
you.
I just, it's.
Are you talking about?
It's time going in the middle
Okay.
and doing the test drive,
Don't
that
worry.
is so tight.
I'll just down on this side.
As far as, so every time,
far away.
to carve out half of the day, a couple days to get that done is, it sounds stupid that has been something I
I
can't
get
make
it,
it.
I totally get it, but you have to move that up on the
I
priority.
will, I will.
We all want you to come by. and
They're
give
telling
us
you to
a
spend money. Let's do it.
I know, I know.
Look,
Most
Christina.
people have had that checked off work, but like I said, when you have kids that are, needing to go to, at last minute, oh, by the way, we haven't been tired, you know what I mean, like, oh, transport car goes till tomorrow. Figure out how to get it in there, yeah,
Get
so.
a police escort. Turn on the
Yeah.
lights.
Bill can take you, I'm sure.
It's exactly what you want to do. He's probably already dealt with the
He
child,
probably
so
had
it's
the
fine.
kid all straightened out by the time you got there, though, Bill.
I don't wanna take it before me.
You could have taken up all my minutes, I would have been fine with that.
Well, good morning. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for inviting us for this lovely snowy morning. My part in this is pretty minor, because I didn't have much to do with putting this together, but this first page is, when I get started out is, our mission statement hasn't changed a bit since 2015, when, our command team back in that time, met, and we came up with this working, mission statement. And it has not changed, our goals of where we're gonna go. Some of the major goals that we have that are changing constantly is hiring and staffing. It doesn't seem like it's changing because we've been doing that now for 18 years, seems like. It's an ongoing issue, but in our business, it's constant turnover, seems like. And then, another major goal we have, this quarter, and last quarter was the peer support. Stephanie and Aaron put together a grant application, and Aaron, submitted it, and I got a grant to do peer support for law enforcement, which includes the sheriff's office, the police department, and fire department as well. And we just had training on that goal.
Finished yesterday.
Of the grant, just started yesterday, actually, went through it. And then a radio upgrade, I'm sure you guys are all familiar, with things that need to be done with radios. In this county, we have some lack of coverage in certain areas of Juniper Canyon and other areas like here for Pickers, which is southwest of the county, and that undeveloped area out there. So we're constantly working on helping. Bill's been working with IT, trying to get them moving, and so has Mitch, Lieutenant Madden, to get that going. So those are some ongoing goals that we have going on currently. So. And Stephanie is gonna handle the financial part.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Our financials look big because they are, but for the most part, when you look at our beginning balance and our revenue lines, we are showing a shortage in revenues, and most of that has to do just as how our revenue streams post to the accounts. So we're on track, but we just haven't seen the realized funds as of yet. Our expenses in the sheriff's office, we are better than budget, and the majority of that is in staffing being short and some of those areas. Same thing with the jail. We also have, knock on wood, not had a major medical incident, which always helps that line a lot because we have to pack a lot in case somebody falls off a bunk and cracks their head open, and we're dealing with that mess. EMPG, it looks good, as far as that goes. But I'm sure, as most of you know, most of that budget, over 50% of it is funded through the sheriff's office, funding. We get very little from the state for our EMPG, which is our SAR group. Parole and probation, which is self-funded, is doing really well against their budget. They also have been carrying a -1 as far as staffing goes, on purpose, with the 110 thing starting to realize in a different way. We have posted a position to fill for another PMP deputy. because we see that going. Parole and probation deputy, yeah, so, that actual number will start to get a little closer to budget. Which means that our ending budget, so in Q1, our ending budget looked worse than this. And some of that is in some litigation, that we had to pay for, and then, another employee's, payout that we had, but now we flipped it and made up for it. And most of it, that again, is staffing. Cause we spent all of our vehicle dollars, huh, Christina?
Oh, God, that's-
Yeah, we just, all of them. So, all right, any questions on that?
One thing you talked about, parole and probation and where we're gonna be with that. If the House Bill 4002, if it passes, there is funding in that. Goes directly to parole and probation to help supervise those drug cases that will be coming back for supervision, which we didn't have before. So we will have some incoming funds from that.
We kind of hit on most of that, the revenue shortage due to the dollars hitting later in the quarters. Our staffing summary, this is a current number. It's so hard to go back 2 months to what was happening then and then talk to about Q2 when we're almost, through Q3. These numbers are actuals as of right now, based on what Jamie had presented to us for our current staffing situation. So most of those vacancies are in the jail and patrol. And then we have a couple of front office positions that we're still kind of waiting on because we don't have any space for them to train them right now if we were to hire them. And then our vacancies in the parole and probation division. So 12 looks big and is ugly, but we've made a lot of ground up.
But those office positions we're waiting on because we're waiting to move to the new building.
Yeah. I mean, I can share my desk, but it's a mess, so.
Okay, so the, work plan description, the radio efficiency, so I've been working with IT and kind of where we're at right now on that is that, so Grizzly Mountain is our main repeater site, for all law enforcement and fire in the local area. And then we have, some other repeater sites throughout the county. We have a lot of dead spots, and then just the nature of policing has changed over the years, and so, but Grizzly Mountain repeater is so overloaded with all kinds of conglomeration of different things, up there that we get interference up there. IT has since now, they are moving our main repeater site to Powellview. They're in the process of that. They're starting to build this spring. It should be done midsummer probably. That should be done sooner than that. And then that's where the 800 radio frequency is gonna come into play. That's going to drastically increase our radio coverage in Prineville, in the city limits of Prineville, in Powellview, and then, minor parts of the other, like Matters Highway, that kind of area. It will drastically increase our radio coverage in those areas. We've also identified a major deficiency in radio coverage up Juniper Canyon. We have since secured or purchased the property, we haven't, IT has purchased the property up Juniper Canyon on Stearns Butte to put up another radio site. That one should be completed in midsummer as well. And so that should increase our radio coverage in the area where we spend the majority of our time. And that's kind of where we're at on the radio stuff for now. Hiring for patrol.
Can I say something real quick about
Yeah.
it? So part of the problem that happened with our radio frequencies was back several years ago, we had broadband radio frequency or wideband. And then, several years, I'm not sure, it's been more than 10 years ago, the FCC came in and said, okay, we're gonna move everybody to a narrow band. Well, what happened is that areas that we had good coverage in before became, sketchy. And then the areas that we had sketchy coverage before became no coverage on the narrowband. So that's why we've had to make some radio changes, because we have dead areas that we never had in years and years ago.
Used to be your radios were 100 watts. Now,
I'm sorry?
used to be radios were 100 watts, and now they're 5 watts,
Oh.
much like the cell phones. You could talk a long ways on the cell tower, but now there's so many more channels and so many more people.
And years ago, Crook County was number one on our frequency. We were the primary channel. And then when I was in Bend, something happened. We got moved from primary channel to secondary channel. So now Marion County rides over the top of us. If you're in Powell Butte or you're up at the airport, Marion County booms right in on our radio.
The sheriffs?
Yeah.
If you're really nosy. Conspiracies everywhere.
But it comes in handy if you're going to Salem, you don't know where the cops are. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, so the Fur Patrol, we've hired, well, like the sheriff said before, we've done this mass hiring. And it all runs together and it's extremely confusing. And I asked Stephanie every couple of days, are we not full yet? So anyways, we ran a process, concluded with 3 offers. One started in December of 23, which was this quarter we're talking about. One washed out, one started in January, which is the current quarter. But I think, and then, the sheriff and I just did, sheriff's interviews. Well, we've been doing some of them, but the last couple of weeks we've been doing some. And I think we have one more sheriff's interview scheduled, in 2 weeks from now. And then I think that will pretty much fill us up. I mean, that's gonna get us really close on the patrol side. The jail side, we just offered, a gentleman, yesterday, and, he told Stephanie that he was over the moon
Yes.
to start in the jail. So then that will get us down to, 3 vacancies in the jail, hopefully, so, if that goes through.
And a weird wave of, we just got 2 more certified people in on this week for jail positions. Now, mind you, we don't accept everybody, but it's just weird how it comes in peaks and valleys. We haven't had an applicant in the lateral position for a month now on that posting, and then 2 back to back. So,
So that we don't jinx ourselves, we're never gonna be filled, so just.
Ever. never, we're always gonna be
As
hiring.
soon as I say we're full, we'll have people leave, so.
Yeah.
So vehicles, yeah, we've beat that dead horse, I think. We concluded with paying for all the equipment. We have 4 of the 14 upfitted and completed on the road. The rest of them, are back and currently being upfitted. There's 3 still in Salem. There's a couple here, in Prineville being upfitted locally. And so we're hoping to speed this process along. We've been, pushing and prodding on that for a couple of years since we got that. You know, in the very beginning, it was 18 months because of the backlog on vehicles, and 18 months and 18 months. Every time we talk to them, it was 18 months before we get delivery. And then all of a sudden they dropped all of them on us at one time, and then our upfitting people couldn't keep up. They didn't have the equipment. And then now we're backlog on equipment, and it's just been a mess. So Erica, we understand. And I'm kind of tired about talking about it first.
But we do have our jail van up and running, and everybody's very happy with it.
Yes, the new jail van is up and running. The guys are using it. There may be fist fights on who's gonna get to go on transport, because it's not nice. It's something that Crook County's never seen as far as a transport van. It's actually a transport van, for prisoners, not just 16 passenger van that everybody co-mingles. It's got an insert in it with departments and dividers, and we can segregate people. We can separate males and females, so we won't have any issues on the transport. We even have a maximum security holding cell in front of it. That's just a 1-person.
It's tiny, huh?
So, we actually have, some pretty state-of-the-art, video recording equipment inside of every one of those that records the entire time. So, And the driver of the van can also see what's going on in all three compartments in the back, so. And there's an intercom, you can talk to them, you can listen to them, just like being in jail, you can talk to them, you can listen to them, you can watch them, it's all recorded, so it's a pretty neat system.
If you haven't had a chance to see it, you come over and look at it. It's
Pretty cool.
Yeah, come look at it, it's pretty neat, and then the interesting thing too is that, you know, vehicles only have certain shelf life. You know, the mileage runs out, whatever. Thinking ahead in this, when we started this process, I wanted one that would have an insert into it that's an actual prisoner transport van. We can take that insert out and put it into the next vehicle, so we can save some money, in the future. So we're not, frivolous to spend the money. The emergency management fund, complete these acronyms, I know what NHMP stands for, that's Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan, CWPP, I don't even know what it stands for. Andy Pearson just talks about it, working with finance, it's a project that we have, what I know about it is it's a project that we have to do, it's as Andy Pearson calls it, the big book of fun. So that we can, if there is a natural disaster, the county can get reimbursed for FEMA money. And I know that he's very involved with Christina on getting this completed so that we could, apply for that money if something were to happen. The EOC generator, the EOC generator and the backup 911 center operational. I remember correctly that, Andy did get the grant, and now it's just a matter of getting things up and running and getting those things installed.
Yeah, we have the grant. We're trying to now, purchase and install and do all the fun things within the amount of money we received, because we talked about how that could potentially be a little bit sketchy.
As I recall, the amount of money coming in is nowhere near really.
Right.
What is the right?
So there was a miscommunication with that whole thing, but we'll get it worked out.
What's gonna happen, any decisions made with respect to the existing diesel generator, what happens with it?
My understanding,
The existing diesel,
Yeah,
my understanding is that depending upon its condition, it may go up to the landfill.
that was the last conversation I heard.
Kind of my question on this is if this was, the diesel generator was fixable, why we didn't just fix it rather than.
Yeah, because we've heard both things, that it's a, dead stick or,
It's on the power generation side of it, to my understanding, is what's the problem with this. It runs, but it doesn't generate.
something about the board in it doesn't do the right things.
and you guys are getting help from Nick on that?
So we're still,
One of the big costs of this, putting this new generator in was, I think they were looking at putting in a whole new pad and a whole work, but if we're gonna pull the old generator out, we're gonna get rid of it and put a new generator in, we can use that same building, we just have to do some reconstruction, to get it out, and then put the new one in there. Duct work and the cabling is all in there, so I don't see why that wouldn't work, and we wouldn't have to have a whole new construction. But that's something we need to look at a little closer. Next page.
So the jail nurse salary review, again, there's a gap in there. We're pretty fortunate, right this second with the nurses that we have. The two nurses that we have a ton of experience. It's an ER nurse and an ICU nurse, I didn't know that one was an ICU nurse. But we have very good knowledge and experience in the nursing staff right now. I think that they're happy. But I still think that we need to retain them because in the last, 4 years, we've had quite the turnover in the nursing, in the jail. And as we learned, yesterday, that is a pretty big liability to the county if we don't have that. So,
In the preliminary numbers that we ran with Vance, how did that stack up?
well, we have no idea what they're called in Vance's report, so I don't know where they're at.
You talked with them just the other day.
we did not try, we got a meeting, with them tomorrow.
So we don't know what our job titles, names, anything got changed to or anything on that yet.
Hiring, staffing, this is corrections. Again, I can tell you, like Stephanie said, it's super confusing, to try to think back of Q2, which is October, November, and December for us. Because it's been a constant state. I know that we're down 4 positions, right now currently in the jail. And, we did just offer the 1 guy, so we should be down 3, providing he can bounce background aside from that. So long-term goals, this is a jail-related thing. So it's a command and control. We need some additional supervision in the jail. And similar to what we did with the tech positions, what we would like to do is convert the corporals to sergeants. And the reason for that is that, corporals, it's very, very basic first line supervision, in the organization. And corporals don't have, they're still in the association, they're still in the collective bargaining agreement. But they just don't have the supervision and, experience or the authority to be effective supervision. And where I'm going with that is performance evaluations is one of our biggest things. And with the jail being, as far as employees, the biggest number of pool of employees, and we have 2 sergeants and 2 corporals in there, and corporals can't do performance evaluations because they're still in the collective bargaining agreement. And so that leaves, for 25 employees, 2 people to do every single performance evaluation. And it's over, so we would like to move forward with that, this year and move those positions up, and it just broadens us and allows us a little bit more diversity.
You just eliminate the corporate position, just make it sergeant.
Yes, that's the plan, that's what we'd like.
Give it an upgrade.
Pro probation, long-term mental health division, we're gathering data with 1 dedicated mental health position, and it's continuing in this quarter as well. Sheriff's Office as a whole, Sheriff touched on the peer support and wellness programs. We got the Lima grant. We were processing who was gonna be the peer support for our agency. Then again, like the Sheriff said, the city, police, and the fire department are also included in this program. And like the Sheriff said, we did just complete the training yesterday. So it's a 3 or 4 day training to train them up to be peer support.
And I can tell you the trainer of this program, came to us last Friday and told us that there's nowhere else in the state that is doing it like we are. And he commended us on how we're moving forward. And it's basically because it's the 3 agencies. We chase each other around all day long, right? City, county, fire, they're always on something together. So our decision was to make this peer team a group. Our DA's office is part of this as well. So, I mean, we've all been involved in the things that end up making an impact. So that was kind of cool to see.
Budgetary impact request. So I talked about the corporal positions. I think that one's pretty well done. The CSO position. So the CSOs they're unique. They're very much needed. As one of the statutory requirements for the sheriff is civil process. Civil process is extremely dangerous. Washington County, last year had a deputy, shot, while delivering an eviction paper. They're very dangerous. We have almost never deliver good news during civil process. And people they're usually very emotionally charged, events. Either we're, serving you divorce papers, alimony papers, child support papers, kicking you out of your house, or giving you 15 minutes to grab your stuff and move. And so with that, and being as dangerous as it is, and the CSO position we have currently is a non-certified position. And being that it's a non-certified position, then we have some reservations about whether or not they can pack a gun or not, and what that looks like. And so by certifying this position, it would allow them to be certified police officers, pack a gun, and have the ability, and then we could also use them for other things. Their main job duties would be to, serve paper, take low priority calls, take dog calls, those types of things. But with being a certified position, they'd also be able to handle crashes, they'd be able to handle other things, they'd be able to, cover some shifts,
Citations.
issue citations, make arrests, do some of those things that previously the CSOs, were not able to do. But again, it's a position that we already have. We're just looking to make it from essentially the same as the tech thing, right? Same as the corporals is, we already have this position, we just like to convert it from a non-certified to a certified position. So, performance measures, improve employee retention and reduce turnover, fully staffed divisions. Again, we have 4 vacancies in the jail, 4 total in patrol, and continue to hire and train as fast as we can, which we've been doing that. Timely response calls, priority calls, less than 20 minutes, and then reduce calls per deputy. Several years ago, one of our guys was an economics major in college. He called around to other agencies, and obviously, we'll just use Bend Police Department for example. Bend Police Department has, 40 calls pending on the board at a time. They have a lot more officers, they do these things. When you break that down for calls per person, at that particular time, we were actually handling more calls and taking more cases per deputy than they were, even though they have their call loads so much bigger because of the population. But I'll get into that. So it varies depending on call activity, but calls per service, and then these numbers come from Q2 of fiscal year 23 and Q2 of fiscal year 24. And the reason I did that is because then we're comparing apples to apples. We can't do Q1, Q2 because of midsummer, for us, which our call volume is extremely elevated that time. So that's why I used the metric that I did. But our calls per service, in this year's Q2 was up 18.37% over last year's Q2. I have no idea why. It's just a trend that we had this year. And then due to the size of our response, it's impossible to set specific times. And then the current caseload per deputy increased from last year, this quarter, to this year, this quarter is up 11.91%. Again, that's probably pretty accurate with the 18% increase in calls per service. And then the jail stuff, our goal is to not increase the cost. We stayed at $120 a day per bed, but again, just like the patrol stats, Q2 bookings, 353 bookings in October, November, and December of 2023, which is a 23% increase over fiscal year 23. So it's kind of right on par with the calls for service.
The increase in calls, or did you identify what the nature of the call was?
I did not, I just did all of the calls for service. And actually in this year, we took, almost 4,000 calls per service in that. We took 487 reports, 98 arrests, 147 citations, and then 4,000 calls for service just in.
That's just one quarter.
That was one quarter.
So you think the population increase or?
It could be, but also too, talking to the jail commander, with the increase in bookings, he said that it's just an anomaly. He said there's really no explanation for why our numbers are increasing at the rate that they are.
Could it be like, the negative impacts of 110 of there's a lot more people that are high doing dumb stuff?
Oh, yeah, we can talk about that all day. We have an entire pod in the jail that's just for mental health people. The mental health services here, like we said yesterday, just aren't that good, and we're handcuffed in our abilities and what we can do.
I'm just saying, the more people you have out there doing drugs, the more people they're gonna be doing petty crimes and causing. That's more what I was talking about.
Sometimes, but also too, like our violent crime rate's up too. I didn't run the stats on it, I don't know what it is, but, the folks that are currently sitting in the maximum security pod, I mean, we got a homicide, we got this. Yeah, three, two.
Two homes.
Two of them sitting in there for that. We have, the sheriff's good buddy sitting in there from 1991. He's a violent criminal.
Sergeant Gotney,
Yeah, Sergeant Gotti.
yeah.
Arrested a guy in 1991 and he just shows his face back up here 3 years after he gets out of federal prison. So, you know, I mean, it's just our violent crime is up too. And the folks that we have incarcerated right now they're bad people and they need to stay there.
But to your point, we can drill down and get some answers, just kind of give you a flow of where we're at.
Helpful in Salem, if what we're
Yeah.
working on doesn't work out, we need to take another run at it.
Sure.
And we've committed 6 youth already this year, 6 youth,
Yeah, that's a lot.
which is a lot. I mean, I think in the year before that, we committed 2. So we are seeing the same trend. I mean, it just is, you know, the trend flows, you know, both ways, but we committed 6 kids from our county, to the Oregon Youth Authority this year, and they are violent young people.
I know this isn't Q3, but has this Q2 trend continued into January and February? Or did it drop off again?
I don't know, I can let you know.
It doesn't, I mean, those aren't the numbers we're together, I just was curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're good to have and we'll get them.
Just didn't know if it's a spike or if it's
Yeah.
plateau.
Well, I can also tell you, so for example, our bookings are they are going to go up. We add staff, more people are able to handle calls appropriately, people are gonna go to jail. Our city has added staff, they are bulking up their positions. So we have more cops out there handling more things and able to catch more bad guys. So our bookings are gonna go up. Their DUI arrests last year were through the roof. And they're consistent on them. So, you know, the more they can, us bulking up to having 5-man teams on patrol is going to allow us to do the proactive things, which are gonna increase all those numbers, which is a good thing. Yeah,
When do we do our jail tour? I don't know if you know this, but one of the things about being a commissioner is we are required to do a tour of the jail
I've
every year.
already done my tour, and I'm gonna get another tour.
awesome.
And what,
Oh,
2
yeah.
weeks, I think
Yep.
we get a second tour, so yeah.
With your,
I've already done mine and got nervous, and I don't know if I wanna ever go back, but I guess I don't. So they might lock me in the next time.
So, yeah, so under the Oregon jail standards, it's required that the commissioners do walk through once a year, and the grand jury does a walkthrough once a year, and the sheriff does an inspection once a year. That's in the Oregon state jail standards. Brian's been the one that's been there when I called it towards the end of the year, that's done it. I know Seth's done it. And now we'll get
I'm
you it.
gonna be doing it twice.
And
Do
then,
those count, or does she have to do a separate?
Well, I did the one tour, I would think
Through
it
the-
counted, and then I'm not sure about the second.
I'll get Drew to get in touch with her. He's the one that's embedded in the jail standards now. I just know that it's.
Basically, though, your part of it is not to be a tour, it's to be an inspection, you're supposed to get an inspection.
So I can come back and do you have a form? I mean, is this
He
like?
does have a form. We'll feed you lunch in there so you can get the whole inmate experience.
I really don't need you.
you can have the sniff test and white glove, I mean.
I can put the white gloves on, but I don't know.
We have a thing in
I
there.
already told you guys yesterday, I'm not demonstrating the rap on the tour. On the tour.
Me neither, no.
Pretty clear.
Yeah, we can, we do actually have a thing in there called the Nutrilo. Really good.
Delightful.
Oh.
It is all your caloric intake for an entire day baked into this.
And this, I'm sure it's delicious.
Elven bread.
Sure,
Uh-huh.
it's delicious. Maybe I can bring it back and share.
I think each of you should try the wrap. I've been in the wrap, so you should try it.
I don't know, Lori jumped
I'll do the-
on, I shouldn't do it.
I also opted not to
I'll
get
do the
tased,
as long
it's
as
gonna hurt.
the other two gets tased.
I don't need it.
Okay.
We're taking this at the DA's time. Any other questions?
No, great. So yeah, just have Drew work Was there the, okay.
We had to actually help people go for it, and she was hungry, and they didn't have any knives. I had to use a glove, like a, glove, and just spread her and her jam on her bread, and I thought, I don't wanna live in a place where I spread my peanut butter and my hands on my bread. I do not want state issued underwear, and I do not want to spread my peanut butter with my hands.
I like the state issue.
Those are my lines of things. State issued underwear.
I like the state issue.
I know.
Oh, yeah. The cute,
What do they look like?
They're-
shopping.
I know, joke, they're, well, at least they're North, they're brown, and they just are.
Big girl panties?
Yeah. Very much.
panties.
Big girl brown panties.
Okay. You know, I'm not trying those on either, I want you to know.
It's really coming down, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's really coming down.
They'll just have some.
Pretty.
How long do you need to stay?
Yeah, I just saw that.
You know, I was like, what it should be.
So we had that. Sure.
I mean, you guys are definitely generating.
You're definitely.
I would like to put fire companies for your children. I was looking at that, I was like, you're criminal, right?
You would think that she would be talking. Did it?
No, I totally got it, and I think you're in there, because I think,
You got.
quite frankly, our group is one of the asking questions.
It was really good.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a problem at all.
Yeah.
And I think it, I already asked questions, in this ticket already.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big group.
No,
Yeah.
The guy who was sitting back directly in front of me, that they were in touch when he said my husband was from.
Yeah.
Because so back to the like people working.
he just serves me information. You know a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I just bought a house, but I didn't have a fancy money and I just think I was like.
Yeah. Well, that's, so then how else was I?
He was drunk.
I don't remember ever saying that there was a touch across the county. That's the thing.
Well, don't you think that's, he must be like a friend of people. He got me a friend of his father, but he didn't have to make care of him. I mean, I don't know why, did you see his name?
But we can find out.
We need to, there's a guy at the VA, and when I was there, a couple years ago, we came in and he said, oh, we bought a house in Meadow Lakes and you have a ranch of place, and my husband died.
Well, so the.
Last year, he's doing the same thing to Carrie, but he even knows like where she, I don't know where my husband, it's like. But he's never heard it, like, I don't know. I think it's. I get started in.
But those guys are making.
He was.
Is it?
About my kids, so I don't mind, is when they start talking about my kids, and I'm like, oh no.
He's just so. Yeah, pretty nervous. So, in the very beginning. So the big guys. I'm not saying you should be worried, I'm just saying. Maybe.
Is this on, so my face is gonna be real big for somebody?
Yes and no. It's not super big. It shows like this, so it's not crazy, but Brad and JC are on and Brad's doing his presentation next, so you won't at least see it on your spot here because I've hidden it. So it's not too bad.
I didn't update this thing.
From before. What am I doing?
It's all the same.
Me too. I'm doing the same thing. I don't know what that. Is that what I need? Well, I'm gonna do it in Zoom.
Harry, he did have the pass on that. To get into that class.
He can't hear? He told me he could. I mean, I don't know what we need to double check, because
Harry started talking, he's started to listen right now.
and he should be able to just unmute himself to speak when he needs to.
I know you don't, I just want you to know that.
Sounds good. I'll communicate with him.
I'll stay here.
But he didn't have.
Brad, can you hear us?
Oh, right.
I heard he came to see me, sorry, yesterday. Can you hear us?
As I told Sarah, I was. So that's what.
Brad, can I have you try talking?
Just me, I'm just. Yes.
She's actually very big, very.
But you know what I mean, I'm just like, you know.
Like always.
Yes.
Hello, hello, hello.
So. Speaking of the doctor's pills and you take them for 12 days and she
Yeah.
She took them for 12 days and said, oh my God, they're amazing. So she bought me a bottle, so I told me that. In 7 more days. Look at not frisking off their chair and I'm just gonna start.
You're gonna take advantage of it.
I don't.
But they're saying.
Brad, can you hear us? I can't hear anything if you're trying to talk.
That is right. I forgot about it. He came up and he.
I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, like we're going to road out 20
He's like.
Are we ready for me?
You guys know that?
Yeah, I need to figure out whether it can't hear us now, but it's left and right, so we can have you continue. Okay, so do you want me to wait or start? You can start. Okay. Y'all ready?
I'm still recording it anyway.
Okay. So I don't have much different than all my other prior presentations. We're still short-staffed and we still do all the same things we used to do. So I did update our mission statement from the previous mission statement. One, I wanted to shorten it. I think mission statements need to be kind of short and sweet and really get at the focus, which in our office is to promote community safety, protect victims' rights, and uphold the law.
it's important that it is clear that we are working on promoting public trust in the justice system. In December, I updated our mission statement, which has been included in this. So you all have seen this before. We will continue to participate in recovery court, wellness court, and truancy court. Truancy court is up and running again with the ordinance, but there's some fine tuning to do with that. We're just starting to implement. We haven't seen an ordinance cited truancy case yet. So we are starting that now. So that's going well. Most of the families, that has been really the turning point. The parents really just want the extra help of getting their kid to get up and go. So while it's not necessarily the biggest thing that we do in our office, if we can get all the kids we can to graduate, that we can, that's obviously very important. Recovery court continues to have some fine tuning to do, working with Aaron Boyce on recovery court. Wellness court's changed a little bit from what it was historically. So wellness court used to be, it was implemented 4 years ago, I think, by Wade, and used to be where cases would funnel for kind of some of the lower level offenses and people who were struggling with mental health issues. We have now, because we have such a significant population of aid and assist cases, so meaning that they are not stable enough, they have such significant mental health issues that they're not aware and can't assist in prosecuting and defending against their case. So the court says you can't proceed with the case is suspended. You all know about the Mossman order and that the Oregon State Hospital is sending those people back to the community. We don't have any inpatient facilities in the community for those people. So unless they are voluntarily participating in treatment, they're not engaging in treatment. So that's a huge gap that we have right now. And we're working with community partners and Best Care to try to figure out resources and ways to, I guess, close that gap, because I can't prosecute them, meaning I can't put any conditions on them, meaning I can't put them on probation. And then if they can't aid and assist in their criminal case. The civil commitment process, where if you're a danger to self or others, is a separate piece that we are also involved in. But right now the hospital is so short-staffed, and the burden to prove that the person is a harm to self or others has quite frankly become so high in practice of what's enforceable that really they wait until the person does something before they say, oh, they are going to do something to someone. So what we are routinely seeing is people are falling through those gaps. So we're spending a lot of time working with community partners, with Best Care, with the court system. As part of that, they are funneling those aid and assist cases. So the people whose cases can't proceed, but are in our community, to status hearings on that calendar to try to at least keep eyes on through the court system. So Wade is handling that. We continue to do child support. Everybody knows that. And then we are internally trying to address short staff, how we're going to proceed with the number of cases, as you've heard from the prior presentation. Caseloads, in particular, violent cases are increasing, and cases that have kind of complex issues are continuing to increase. With having more staffing, we're seeing a lot more DUIs, as you heard mentioned in the last presentation. DUIs are very complex. I will tell you that as a prosecutor, if you can prosecute well a DUI case, you can prosecute any other kind of case, because there's not going to be any other kind of case that is as scientific and as complex and as thoroughly litigated in our system as a DUI. These numbers are from last time. I don't think they were updated. So I don't expect, as far as with our financials, that the only pieces that I expect will change. We have a couple of homicide cases. I anticipate filing potentially a couple of more. So I have one homicide case set for trial in 2025 in February. So that may have some expenses related to it. The other pending homicide hasn't been set for trial yet, but I would expect that also will be a 2025, so this fiscal year. I have a racketeering case that I will have, financial experts in that will likely be this fiscal year. And it could get bumped to next fiscal year. But I think it's gonna be I think it's currently set for trial in June, but it may get bumped to be into next fiscal year. So just some of the more high, kind of unusual cases that we have, so that may be an expense that's not currently anticipated. We did implement a process where we bill out for defense discovery. You all are aware of that. So when we provide defense discovery, they are charged a fee. Historically, the office charged public defense a reduced rate than what we have. I don't remember what month that was, where the commissioners went through and approved the new fee schedule. We now charge everybody consistently the same fee schedule. So that's increased some of our recovery of those expenses. So we'll see some adjustment in that revenue. Small, I mean, it's not huge, but it's at least something. And then the other piece will be training. Training's expensive. We do our very best to reduce the cost of that, but I also have to make sure the attorneys are trained. So those are really the only places that I anticipate a change in what we've historically had. Otherwise, we're fairly stable with what our costs are. So this is our org chart. I restructured the org chart to make it kind of clear and how we are laid out. So obviously, I have my chief deputy, assistant chief, and we currently have one DDA in that position. I have hired some extra help on contract basis to try to help us process our intake, just because of the load of what people are in court, really 8 to 5 most days. And so that doesn't leave a whole lot of time to be able to process other cases. And then he's also helping process expungements currently. We currently actually have 4 vacancies. So we have 2 DDA vacancies and 2 legal assistant vacancies. We have a temporary person that we're evaluating if that person's going to move into one of the vacancies of legal assistant. And then we have job posted for 1 legal assistant. So, otherwise, we've maintained, we have a lot of change in our structure over the last couple of years of how I'm really trying to cross-train everybody. Institutional knowledge should not be held with one person. So I changed some of the job descriptions. Historically, it was legal assistant restitution clerk, legal assistant child support, legal assistant receptionist, legal assistant, right? Like everybody's jobs were so parsed out. So now it's legal assistant, and you should be able to do all of those duties. And so people can, if someone's out or quits, we can move chairs and not have to have crisis if people don't know the job. So that's one of the big pieces that I've been working on, is making sure everybody's cross-trained and getting Cassie up and running on Carpel, because currently Shelley's really the only one who can code Carpel. That's our software system. So Cassie's going in a couple months to Carpel training. It won't be like you go to training and then instantly you know how to run the entire system, but right, we're starting to expose people to cross-training in different positions. Are there any questions about our org chart? Has changed a bit and how I'm handling it, so I'm happy to pause and answer questions there. It's really hard to implement goals that are number oriented in my office, because what do you say? We're gonna charge, this many DUIs. Well, I don't know how many DUIs are gonna be arrested. So to come up, like, really what is the crux of our issues? Retention of attorneys and moving cases sufficiently and dealing with our volume in a way that impacts community positively. So it is very, very challenging when we have constant burnout and constant turnover to still be able to keep up on cases and do an effective job on prosecuting cases. And so what we've had to look at is something has to give somewhere. We just don't have the bodies. So where do we give? So we've looked at implementing fast track offers, meaning low level offenses, you're going to get a better offer. You're going to get our lowest possible offer you take it quickly within 30 days and your case is resolved and you move on. So we've made those mostly for lower level offenses, people who have less criminal history, your class B and C misdemeanors, your trespasses, harassment that are non-domestic, low level thefts, but keeping in mind that we have to be able to have restitution information quickly. With EDP offers, the judge is bound by the negotiations between the parties. And so there's some assurance to move the case a little bit more quickly. It has been a systemic change in philosophy with our defense bar. So they are still struggling with the, no, this deadline really means this deadline. And everyone's like, well, just give me a continuance. And you really have to draw a bright line rule with no, right? You have to have your stuff together and this offer expires and then it's going to be this offer if you don't accept it. There's a lot of, one of our other pieces is just navigating with the court system, with sharing judges with Jefferson County. There is a movement to try to have the two different court systems the same, and they are not. They have different people, they have different community philosophies, they have just a different setup. So there's a lot of navigation of how do we get where we all need to get with very strong personalities involved and people who, you know, ultimately it's the judge's decision on a lot of things, what they ultimately end up doing on a case. So trying to figure out a way to navigate new processes with our court system, and with a whole lot of new people in our office. So trying to streamline, the biggest piece is dealing with what do we do with the volume of cases that we have coming in? Where do we prioritize our resources? We obviously have ongoing new people. So we've started creating, we created a management shared folder where we now are making checklists of what do all the new people need coming in? Because historically it was like, oh wait, they need access to the building. Oh wait, they need access to the code to get in, right? And so those things were kind of piecemealed as we figured it out as it went along. So we're trying to streamline that process because the reality is I think that we will continue to see some turnover. I'm really hopeful to stabilize. But when new people come in, I want to be able to have like, write a checklist of you got your keys, you got your code books, you have all of these things, and then have a training manual that I can give them that they can follow for guideline through their career. I have pieces of the binder, the new attorney binder done. I haven't ever had a chance to actually fully compile all of it. So I was hoping to have that ready for Q2. Didn't happen. We'll hope to have it ready for April for our new attorney who's coming in. And then one of the other pieces with some of our structure with adding the operations manager and separating out some of that infrastructure work that is done by the operations manager from Kathy being more of the personnel supervisor and dealing more directly with the legal assistants. We have to figure out and create a checklist for what everybody does, right? So everybody's doing things at least similar. When you have humans involved, there will obviously be changes and that people interpret things differently. But to a certain extent, if I pick up this file, whether it's assigned to any attorney in my office, I want to be able to look at that file, tell where are the subpoenas? Who was subpoenaed? Are they sending out subpoenas in the same way? Right? Are they saving documents the same way? So we're a little bit more organized. And so we're creating a checklist for the legal assistants. So, you know, what has historically happened is everybody kind of keeps their own notes and their own training manual of how they do it. And then we're, you know, stumble across something and wait, I don't do it that way. I do it this way. One of those things was when we ordered digital evidence from law enforcement. So that's been a big influx in data that's coming in and a new process that I've set up and that we're still navigating with the legal assistance. Questions about that?
Are you having to create all this? Are there any models? That
No.
departments that-
There, I mean, some, so Some, but every office is structured so differently, and what I find is a lot of offices don't have any organization. One of the things that comes with stability is everyone kind of settles into their spot and they kind of know. We have almost everybody that's new in my office. We only have a couple of people who've been here longer than I've been here. And so we probably are organizing it more than we need to, but we're also, because there's so many new people, finding like we really have to like order this, order this, order this, make it much more nuanced than I think other places. We can copy policies, but how we've set up our file system, there's some, but not a lot that's necessarily organized. And when I reach out like to Jefferson County, most of the counties are on Carpel, our same system, but they don't really have that kind of detail set up that they can share. But we certainly do. They have an office manager listserv, and then we have a DA listserv that we can all kind of communicate with each other and pull pieces from, and then ultimately fashion it to ours.
And I know that's difficult too, working in conjunction with the courts, because each individual judge has their preference of how they want, they will have and set policy standards, so.
Yes,
it's
it
a
is.
moving target.
It is a very much a moving target, and there are lots of humans involved in the process, and so that, you know, even to get to the judge, you may have different clerks. We have a new TCA coming in. So,
What's TCA?
trial court administrator. I don't think it's been officially announced, so I won't announce it here. But I think that that's gonna be good, because they're a Crook County person who has some stability and experience in the court system. I really like her. So I think that this is gonna be good for working with moving forward and kind of easing some of that streamline. I do think in the next few years, I just signed a letter, hopefully to get another judge. While that's a double-edged sword, because it makes it harder on us to have to cover more places, but we are so backlogged. We historically the court didn't have Friday afternoon court. They usually stopped with like 11:30s. Now we have court all the way through the entire day. There are times we have 2 courtrooms, and if we have 2 courtrooms and grand jury at the same time, that if you look at how many attorneys I have in my office, nobody can be sick on that day or be on vacation or have another meeting, or so it just is. That will be hard for us, but also we need it. The community needs, and I'm hoping if that happens, they can have 2 in Jefferson and 2 in Crook and have some more stability, because really the communities have grown at this point that really needs to happen. And happier judges make our lives happier. So when you don't get yelled at in court, life is a lot more fun. So yes, they definitely would. So we still continue to work on the revised intake process. Most of it's flowing through me. I have the contract attorney doing most of the intake that flows to me, and then I review it and then assign it out. It's not necessarily ideal, right? Ideally, you have more of a vertical prosecution where the person charges it and carries it all the way through. But I also the attorneys don't have the time to be able to do that. And I would rather have them learning their cases, prepping trials, meeting with their witnesses. So that at least helps. And it also helps with, as I implement this new fast track offer, I have a little bit more control over the fast track offers that are going out and what they say. So I have a little bit more eyes on in that sense. Ideally, my felony attorneys would have 40 to 60 cases. And when we talk about what they're carrying of their caseload, like these are, major child abuse cases and person crimes and homicides and, investigating deaths that have potentially a criminal culpability in them, as well as property offenses. We have the JRI grant now, and so we can work with the parole and probation department on justice reinvention I don't know what the I stands for. So that's for what's called repo, repeat property offenders, ballot measure 57 cases that are prison eligible. Aaron Boyce and I implemented a new process. There was at one point a risk of losing that grant. I think I've talked to you guys about this before. That at one point there was a risk of losing the grant. The DA's office did not have the grant when I came into office. We now resubmitted to be, to have an attorney under the grant and to get some relief from that funding. One of the reasons that the grant was at risk was that the grant administrators, I think it's CJC, didn't like that. They didn't feel like there was, I mean, the reality is they thought too many people were going to prison. So they wanted a process of how are you deciding who goes to prison, who gets a downward departure. So Aaron and I implemented a risk assessment tool. So he does kind of a pre-sentence screening where he looks at their prior history, their risk factors, and does kind of a risk assessment and evaluates how they've done historically on probation. What are their risk factors? Do we think this person's likely to comply with probation conditions? So on those offenses, those repo offenses, we do that assessment so that we have more of an objective basis to be able to explain for the grant purposes of how we're evaluating those cases. Currently we still are, Laura has about 200 cases assigned to her. Carolyn has a little less than that, but close to that. And both of them are stepping in and picking up. We've split the alphabet of the cases that were assigned to Joel. So one of them's covering the first half of the alphabet and the other one's covering the last half of the alphabet. And he also had, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 150, 160 cases. So, and then we're all just doing what we can do to get through and get Grace up to speed, and get her comfortable and trial ready. I've been unsuccessful of finding any viable law clerks. I've signed up for the Oregon, I was a University of Oregon Law School graduate, so I signed up under their career center. I know HR also has signed up to get the job postings out to the various law schools. I've attended some of the like the job recruiting and mentoring things. I'm part of Oregon Women Lawyers. So I participated in one of their they did a job like advice where new young graduates could come in, or soon to be graduates could ask advice of various women and various, like some of them were judges, some of them were defense attorneys. We just aren't seeing success with getting people. Had a couple of interests and then they looked at rent and they were like, I can't afford to rent there. So that's been, it would be ideal because I really feel strongly that if we could get these law students in, that would be a great recruiting method. Historically, Judge Vittelen's, when she was DA, most of her hires came from law students and they usually would stay 5 to 7 years. So if we could get people to stay a little bit longer than 12 to 18 months, that would be great. We're working internally on retention pieces of having more one-on-one meetings. Cassie's implemented a lot of those processes with the staff of regularly meeting individually with the staff. I have as well. Cassie's much better about, they'll go grab coffee. I'll pull them into my office because I can't necessarily get away from the office, but just checking in one-on-one. Do you have suggestions? What would make you happier? You know, are there issues? And it's actually been really helpful because there's things that I didn't necessarily realize were happening just in daily process. So I think we have a really, really good team right now. Yes, we're short-staffed, but everybody's really supportive of each other and they really, really care for the community. And for me, you can teach somebody how to do the job. You can't teach them the heart and you can't teach them the care for the community. So that's really our focus, is keeping little to no drama, everybody getting along and really focusing on building a team who wants to invest in our community. And so we've been working on those pieces, currently working on implementing something to honor anniversaries. So we're working on, maybe that looks like we order engraved mugs from an engraver and give that to the person on their 5-year anniversary, something like that, right? So we're actually honoring our employees. I don't have numbers. I think that we follow the same trend. We're working on, I don't love how we keep numbers, and I just don't know that a great answer to keeping stats. We can pull some stuff from our computer system, but that's one of the challenges is law enforcement stats from what they have databases that keep much better stats than what we have. So we also are working on implementing a way to keep stats, but I can pull some numbers. I guess it just depends on what you've all heard me say, right? 1,000,000 times. So kind of the trends. But if you want numbers, I am happy to go digging.
I mean, I think if you look at the numbers, America and the sheriff, I mean, they funnel into you.
They funnel
so
into me,
I think
yeah.
it makes sense that you would have higher numbers.
Yeah. We're nationwide, violent crime and more complex crime is on a rise. For the first time since the 1980s, we are seeing a spike in vehicle fatalities and vehicle injury cases. Really, since the 1980s, they were going down. I think it was why things happen. I think people speculate too, right? But the belief was safer vehicles, more community awareness. During the pandemic, starting in about 2019, vehicle fatalities for the first time since the 80s started increasing. And Oregon this year had the deadliest beginning of our year that we've ever had.
Now you're talking about like drug
Vehicle
use
crashes.
or
Vehicle
just
crashes,
Period vehicle crashes or vehicle crashes with like DUI or drugs?
both.
Because everybody's in a hurry.
Yeah,
Everybody
and
wants to get there 5 minutes faster.
Measure 110, people are using a lot more. It's become a lot more normalized. We're seeing younger use. We're seeing kids who are testing positive for fentanyl. The marijuana psychosis is off the charts, and it takes a really, really, really long time to stabilize. We just can't hold people long enough. Marijuana is counter, I don't know what the right word is, counter indicated. So if somebody has like a bipolar schizophrenia and they're medicated, marijuana, if they consume it, will block the ability for that medication to work. So even if they are taking their medication, they're gonna look like they're not.
And I think they said like totally sober, clean, at least 6 months to see a slight difference if they've entered psychosis. And you're talking about 18 months to 2 years in order for that psychosis, if it's just a drug related, for it to all go better. But we can't, we'll get a youth, we have about 6 youth right now who are in full psychosis, which is unheard of. I mean, I can't even, for this size, community this size, to have 6 youth that are in full psychosis, hearing and seeing things that are not visible to anybody else it's outrageous. But so we'll get those kids in, we can get them clean and sober when they're in detention, we can get them clean and sober partially when they're in, ESA, which is early intervention for psychosis type patients, schizophrenia. The problem is that to keep them clean with 110 and with just the amount of drugs that's happening right now currently in Oregon, to keep them clean for that period of time is not happening. So we can have a kid who looks like they're making really big progress, they get off probation or, something happens, and then we are right back to where we were, and all of the progress they have made is now, we're back at square one, because they're in full, they're in full psychosis.
And is that marijuana induced or is it fentanyl?
Yes, yes.
Marijuana.
Marijuana.
And we
Is it because of the additives that they put on it?
No.
It's just regular.
I think it's that what we've heard, I think the science behind it is, what's new, right? So, because our marijuana it's new marijuana. I don't think they know the effects quite yet. I think that's still, we haven't had enough time with this marijuana, but I think what they're saying is it's so concentrated and the THC levels are so crazily high. We don't know what the long-term effects are gonna be. And what we've found now in the last few years is the psychosis that's happening.
The studies on psychosis go back 40 years. we've never had this, so it was probably more sporadic. We've never had such high concentrations so commonly used. And so it's more, so everybody's on kind of a spectrum already of maybe some susceptibility, and you don't know where on that spectrum you fall. And so then you add in high dosage, high concentrations, high dosage, and people who may not otherwise have had those issues are now having those issues. And then they really are fixing things. So the drug recognition expert program was developed for DUI enforcement primarily, but they're seeing physical symptoms that they've never seen before. And if you think about it, like if you overdose, so you can think about alcohol, because everyone's used to alcohol. So someone drinks too much and they're intoxicated, and you have the slurred speech, the falling down, right? The maybe not able to balance. If you drink such high concentrations to overdose or to toxicity, your body's going to react differently. You may see seizures, you may see other things. And so that's the best way I can correlate to what we're seeing with these high doses of the marijuana. It's doing things to your body that they didn't typically see because it's such high concentrations. And then we have young minds and young bodies using it, and I don't know that their brains will go back.
And they have those they're predisposed to some mental health issues that you may never see, right? They may have never come into the forefront, but marijuana has caused them. And the other problem is that, I think people have this view of like, I'll give them some marijuana, they calm down, they chill out, they do all these things. It's not. It looks like the current use of marijuana, the current marijuana usage, it looks like you're on methamphetamine. So we are having a lot of situations where people are like, these kids are not using marijuana, they're using meth, they're using cocaine, they're using whatever. Their numbers are only THC. But because the levels of THC are so high, they don't look like you're past stoner. It looks like a young person who is on methamphetamine. They're twitching, they're all over the place, their energy level is out of control. It's a very fascinating kind of thing to watch as this progresses.
Scientifically fascinating, socially horrifying.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's scary too, because there's just so much unknown. It's just this new, and every day the weed gets better, right? I mean, the quotations and that, the marijuana gets better, it gets stronger, the highs, but it's stuff we've never seen. So we have no idea what the long-term effects are going to be, on these kids. And our 6 youth, granted, they have some mental health history in their families, but our 6 youth all fall into that marijuana-induced psychosis.
No other drugs, just marijuana.
They will dabble, but their issue, yes, is marijuana. And we have a young man who is back in our community. He was in our community. He was 14. He was in psychosis we'd never seen before. He went to the state hospital multiple times. He then ended up we moved him in with his dad into Deschutes County. He was doing very well with our ESA team.
Thought he was Jesus.
Thought he was Jesus.
And he would assault people because he was Jesus.
Yes, and he had command threats, which are even more scary. That's when you're in psychosis and you have command voices, which tell you to do things to other people. So his command voices were basically letting him know that he gets to make the decision, and he would ask you, are you going up, or are you going down? Do you want to find out? Those kind of questions. And so he was with ESA, he was doing very well, he was on antipsychotics, we were keeping him clean. He got off probation, he moved back in with his mother here in Crook County, and he was just found by the sheriff's office in the middle of the street talking to people who weren't there. So it's gonna be a continual issue that he's gonna have, and the same man is only 16 years old.
So, and fast forward that case to as an adult, that person can't aid and assist in their defense.
No.
That person can't go to the state hospital. So that person is in our community with pending case that I can't do anything about because they are hearing voices and they're not in reality and can't aid in their defense. And the only way we can get that person treatment is if they voluntarily agree to it. Well, most people who are in that mental state don't voluntarily agree to it. And separately, I can't get them committed because they haven't tried to kill anybody yet. Even though, like, I had a guy not that long ago, his wife woke up to him standing over her, and he told her that the voices were telling him to kill her. And we had case after case after case of violence, and we could not get him to the hospital to get him committed, no matter how many phone calls I made, no matter how many phone calls law enforcement made. He was ultimately arrested, but in Deschutes County, but the offenses were low enough offenses, they couldn't get him to the state hospital. And, he ultimately was released from jail. It happened in Deschutes, not here, but he was found with a firearm threatening people. So, like, those are the things that terrify me, and those are the things that, like, I hope and pray we never have something happen from that, and that we're doing everything we can. So we have big gaps. And those are where it's hard to come up with this goal setting, right? To have a number for that. Like, my goal is to have people not killed or harmed. And like, I don't know how you quantify that into a measurable number.
And what's really hard is that's where it goes back into that play. We really need a strong mental health system, in our community, and a strong, and maybe even some residential treatment, because this young man standing in this room asking if you guys are gonna go up and down and wanting to ask if you find out, it is virtually a threat. But because he hasn't committed, he can say what he wants to, so it's not a crime. So you have a very scary young person in the school building who's making kids uncomfortable, who is getting command threats, is having people, whoever that he hears telling him to kill people. Those are not crimes. And so you never know when that's gonna happen, you know what I mean? So we can't intervene on our end. You need to put some stuff in place. That's where the mental health.
It's there, it's just.
Yes, and so
There's
it's
a trigger, it's
yeah.
there, and the trigger's gonna come, and how bad is it?
And Carrie and I are losing sleep over when is that gonna cross over to voices to an actual act that we can handle. So that's where that mental health piece and working with our mental health comes into play, because they're really the ones who can intervene in that piece and get them into mental health hospitals or mental health residential beds, because we don't have access to those. I only have access if they have a crime, and I don't really have access, but I can put pressure on mental health to get them a bed. But as far as him just being in here in psychosis and having, voices tell him to kill all of us.
It's actually too bad that the governor focused on 500 million for housing, when really what we needed was the money for mental health.
Yes.
Because it's just increasing, and if you could get a handle on that, maybe that would reflect back into the housing, but it is kind of a shame. It's like we just kind of frosted over, we're never really doing anything.
Yeah. Yes.
We're such great news.
Yeah.
We're like the party.
I see Disneyland over here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much, thank you for all you do.
Yeah, 11, right? You want to see that?
Yeah.
Thank you all for. She says, thank you.
Thank you guys. See you later.
No, because he changed his thing.
Try speaking, Brad.
Can you hear me, Sarah?
I can.
Okay.
Should we send Brad a picture of our thunder condition?
I was gonna say, we may need to.
Because we're snowing here. I don't think there's snow in the waivers.
Doesn't one mountain get snow?
You think he's on there? No.
Brad, you can still hear us, right?
I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Loud and clear. Are we ready?
We are ready for you. Or should we wait for Brian real quick?
Brian isn't in the room, so let's wait just a minute.
Okay.
All right, Brad, we got Brian back in the room. I think we are ready to roll.
Okay, good morning, Judge and County Commissioners. I'm Brad Haynes, Road Superintendent for Crook County. I'm here to give the quarterly two statement. Mission of Crook County Road Department will strive to keep county maintained roads as safe as possible at all times of the year and all weather conditions like today. Obviously, you guys are having some snow issues. What's that?
What's the weather like there?
Major goals is develop a strategic plan, inclusive of an operating plan, staffing plan, and succession plan. Capital improvement projects, specific sections, miles, etc. for each project. Coordination with GIS and generate maps for them projects, and overlay and chip seal completed constructions. That's the goal of the mission of the plan. Identify and update annual cost to maintain county road system at or above the condition index of 70%. We're doing that. We're at 84 presently. We are getting inspected this year. We're in the process of updating the traffic transportation systems plan. We've been involved in a couple meetings, one at Powell Butte and one at Juniper Canyon with Will and his crew. We're in the process of transportation system development charge study, and that's going to be led by finance to finance some of these projects. Next slide, please, Sarah. Our beginning balance this year was 14 million. With got an actual, it's 15 with a variance of 562. We have revenues of budgeted at 585. Actual come in at 1,000,005, and with a variance of 474. Expenses so far this year are 1,000,000 budgeted. It's an actual of 824,000. So we are about 1.5 million in variance. So field tax is slightly ahead of the budget, and personnel we are a couple staff short. Chip seal and paving we're at 50%, 58% of budget. So we still have some stuff to do this fiscal to get up with chip sealing. Next slide, please. Our org chart here, we have authorized 20 positions. We're at 18. We're missing a shop supervisor. We did get 2 flaggers hired in 1st of January. Finally, they're up and running. We still have a vacancy. We'll have a vacancy for 1 seasonal help to help with this flagging and chip sealing this year. Next slide, please, Sarah. Strategic plans in progress. That is pending the completion of the TSP this summer of 24. Capital improvement projects, we're still in progress with that. We are identifying update annual costs for maintaining the PCI. I'm working on that as we speak. And completion of the community development is going to be effective this summer. STCs will be led in by the study for finance. Next slide, please, Sarah. Possible transportation utility registration fee is still pending. That's going to be led through finance. We are completed with the Rickman pit crush. It's going on right now. Bear Creek shop is completed. They put an addition out there and for storage for one of the vehicles. That was done in January, completed in January. Stockpiling cinders and blading is ongoing with the wet conditions in the higher country and the wet conditions in some of our gravel roads. We're continuing to do blading and then stockpiling cinders, of course. Pulling shoulders and potholing. We'll pull shoulders as soon as it dries out a little bit this spring. The potholes we're actively working on right now. They're starting to develop with the wet weather and the freeze and thaw. So we're still ongoing with them. Next slide, please, sir. We've maintained our county roads We're 100%. We're 84 PCI for this year. Like I said, we do have they're coming in this spring or summer to do another evaluation. We'll see what it goes from there. We're still working on timely snow control. Probably be working on that for the rest of the March, and then hopefully not into April, but maybe into April. So, is there any questions for me?
Is that these are the ones we're looking for now?
What's that?
We missed slides. That what you're saying?
We'll tell whatever was in
Yeah,
here.
Is he gonna speak to?
Yeah, there's future plans.
Yeah.
And then what you had already on the implementation of the HRIS, but the future plans, so I didn't do it, it was on there when I left.
Yeah, I think he probably pulled up
Prior to.
I still have your point up, if you wanna, I can help re-pull it.
I was gonna say, yeah, if you come over here and. 1 second, Brad.
Okay.
I don't wanna re-download all of them,
There we go, yeah.
so if I just click on it, it should just.
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking for?
Got her.
Okay. And it's present from there. I think I
Oh.
can with this, maybe. I think I have to do it through here.
Okay, perfect.
Hey Brad, could you put like a snow background behind you, just so it makes it seem fair?
What's that, Judge?
Could you put a snow background in your Zoom, just so we feel like it's a more fair situation?
I could close the windows.
Can you turn the air conditioning up really high so you're shivering too?
It is. I just came from a cold climate, so it is high. So some of the future plans that we have is the fleet management system. We need to start conversations with the department heads for needs and goals, and what type of fleet management direction we're going to go, and what platforms we need to start looking at. And how broad it's going to be, and so we just need to start that process with the department heads.
I have a question on fleet management. One of your former, well, not one of your, but a former road employee came to see me, and his worries were if you did fleet management, you didn't have the buildings to do it, that you have your shop and maybe you don't, your supply chain's broken down. So if you were to do fleet management, are we looking at that we need to put up another building or anything? What is your thought?
There is going to have to be a good question, Commissioner, but there is going to have to be some added space made for the, how broad the space, how broad this fleet management we develop. And we'll have to get more staffing to take care of the other departments' needs and and the goals that they have set for this fleet management. We're definitely going to need to revise the space. Yes. Short answer.
Do you have the physical space?
Not at this present time. It's going to be a future goal.
Okay, thank you.
Is that something we could talk to somebody in the public and talk to them about, like a
Outside
King's
source
Auto or
or
something?
Outside
Just
source.
see if we can get a bulk deal with them, and then we don't have to build anything.
My thing about it is, and I'm gonna use Erica just because she was just here at juvenile, she's transporting someone. She doesn't need to go out and kick the tires and do the oil stick and whatever. She needs to just get in that car, put the kid in and go. So we need somebody that's timely, changing oil, checking tires and all of that. And so does that come under the county or is that an outside source? But quite frankly, he's saying he doesn't have room there. So we need to think about that. Are we gonna build a building somewhere else and staff it, or is it more cost effective to do outside? I don't know. I just wanted to ask that question. That's kind of why I brought it up.
Yeah, totally. And maybe you hire an employee that manages.
That's all they do. They just
And
go
then
around.
they grab cars and they drive them to the.
They have it on a computer. When that car ages out,
Then they go and do
yes,
it.
I mean, we
But
need to get way more efficient than we are. It's ridiculous the way it is, but I'm just asking is basically.
I think
his
that's all
limitation.
part of the study that's coming forward with
Yeah,
all this type of input to
yeah.
arrive at that decision.
Okay, thank you, Brad.
Yes, this will include also, the purchase of fleet vehicles and also, the management of that too, and when they need to be depreciated out and released from county ownership. SDCs, we've been to a couple meetings in the Pal Butte, and like I mentioned in Juniper Canyon area, there's some big projects that are, brought to mind. And, we definitely need to look for revenue sources and funds for them infrastructure projects and go for transportation grants and federal funding to help assist them and work with the other agencies that are involved with these. So that's future projects with SDCs. Is there any questions on this?
Nope. Yeah.
Okay. Is this my slide?
Nothing so.
It's got your logo on it.
It's in the deck.
It's in the deck. Okay, I guess I'll talk to it. We'll implement findings and recommendations from the HR roadmap with the HRS that's now being implemented, and we'll see the positive impact for the entire organization. There will be considerable management changes required, so and support from the leadership throughout the organization. Okay, is there questions?
Nope. You guys?
No, thank you, Brad.
Thanks, Brad. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that I'm over here. I wish I was there, but well, it is what it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad report to HR, or HR report to Brad.
Maybe that's our solution.
Yeah. Are you doing facilities?
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Take a quick minute.
I don't know. Okay, okay. And then everything is. The usual way to say that. And that's what we get. I don't like run now. I don't know. Or they, you need to serve. Yeah. And then. Whether I just want to make sure that. Yeah. The standing in place to schedule. Yes. All right, we'll be back.
Thank you.
So yeah, because everybody struggles to be able to get it ready to administer.
Yes. Yes.
Things that there's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, this is sort of if there is a position.
For man. Yeah, and it's just like, he asks her what she needs. He goes and gets bids out. He brings the car to her. And she said, no, this doesn't work for this. But I mean, quite frankly.
Does a walk through and once they get the car.
And even purchasing.
Yeah, I know, the whole.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need that system and we need it under control. And I don't know if outside sourcing is the answer there. Cause it all depends who you get, how good the customer service is. No, you can't. See, and that's why I'm just wondering if it's not better that we try it, and that's why I wanted to ask him, because the one guy came in and said, we're really impact road, so we need to maybe do this at the landfill, I don't know. I'm
They
just
have
saying,
their own standalone apartment.
yes, I don't know, I'm just, like you say, I wanted to get his, what do I want to say, affirmative.
Yeah, no, and I'm not saying I'm married to the outside source, I think it's just best to look at all the different options.
But we definitely need to work on it.
But it's also a way to bring money into the. So
Exactly.
they can balance their budget a little bit.
Exactly, I agree with you there, and that's a fitting place for it, I agree totally with you, but again, we got a couple of things.
Yes. A lot of it is communication.
That is pretty good.
No,
I think he's doing pretty good. I like his attitude and everything.
You ready?
And we're ready for you.
All right, just put this together quickly with Brody. I mean, nothing here has really changed. You know, hit on, funding wise, and this is just showing, it looks like, just the quarterly data, right? So the beginning balance as budgeted as of October 1st, actual October 1st, and then the quarterly revenue expenses and ending balance. Revenue, you would expect to be pretty much on par because it's an internal source fund every month, getting the same type of money, a little bit of extra interest income. Expenses are a little bit below, on a tracking basis. The personnel is low relative to the budget. That's half-time administrative assistant that we've had vacant for, the entire year thus far. And then materials and services are also well below budget, tracking on an annualized basis. That was just the facilities fund, and this, high level, this is the capital projects fund. This would be where the Justice Center is. And the money, the revenue side of things isn't coming in based on just more on holding pattern, with the state on the suit. And then the expenses are tracking consistent, spend down of the construction budget. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago in terms of where the Justice Center was budget wise. It's on track, and we should be ending up with about $8 million plus or minus available to go towards the courthouse project.
We currently have about 375,000 thereabouts of budget left within Kirby's contract.
Okay, and does that include a parking lot or?
No.
No, and that'll come out of the other,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, there isn't anything in that budget for that.
okay.
And out of that 375, you think you're covered? Like you're,
I think we all think we are.
Yeah, the conversation I've heard, yes, most items have been ordered. It's just,
We're having some changes that come through, but.
okay, staffing wise, they're, at the end of the quarter, one tech position, vacant, and then the halftime allocation of Brianna's time in terms of the vacancies. We've filled the tech position with Wesley and then have Brianna in, and now we're just down a director position.
And I have another question on the Justice Center and submitting invoices to the state. Are we fairly current with that now, or are we with what's doing that?
They're all on this court. So I've been sending them to me since they do that.
So are we current to do? Are we
He
just?
only asked me for 21 and 22, so that's all I sent him. But 23 and 24 are put together. So that's all I know.
Yeah, we should, we talk this for everything.
I thought we had talked and you guys said
You have
that.
all those. They're not ready to go, but that's all they asked me for, and then I asked him if he wanted the rest of them, he said he didn't want to check.
Houses, because if we were within the operating agreement, we'd do it monthly. And
Yeah,
I
so-
just want to make.
We'll go, yeah, just ask Christine to go ahead and get all
Yeah.
of them, you know,
Yeah.
to,
As soon as possible.
yeah. I don't know, if any of you had a chance to read the reply yet?
Some of it,
It's a good read.
yeah.
Fiction, some solid fiction.
Well, yeah, I sent Eric a text message last night and just asked, is the state trying to lose? And then asked John that this morning, and
Some of this is executive session levels, yeah, okay, let's do it.
but it's good reading. We've covered the staffing. The number of work orders, I did get this slide updated, 705 work orders in the third quarter. Or excuse me, the second quarter. Just got that from Brody. That's what, a tripling nearly of the work that was done, the work orders, you know, in the first quarter of the year. So I'll go back and talk to him a little bit more about, you know, what's driving that number. And he's showing 510 in facility. You know, and exactly what that is, I'll find out. You know, what's driving that. The other numbers, you take that out, you're at just under 200. And he's got them down by each of the different buildings. The next highest would be circuit court at 38. Well, excuse me, sheriff has 42, circuit court at 38, 24 at the library. And then the rest of them are single digit. With the exception of legal at 12 and health department at 11, so. Looks like a lot of activity in this facility category, which, you know, I'm not sure what exactly that is. And then, you know, as expected, sheriff, I'm thinking is mostly the jail and that
I
type
know
of.
the other day they were taking out shower hooks because they figured out the prisoners could take the screws out of the four corners. I talked to them over there.
And, you know, I think a lot of it too is just being attendant to the needs. That previously, over the years, neither the funding available to do it or the manpower to do it, and
And aging buildings.
A lot of buildings, a lot of old deferred maintenance going on. They've implemented the Siemens controls. Those were, you know, contracted for in the first quarter. They got those implemented. You know, talking with Brody, one of the things that they're seeing, and I think Nick mentioned this as well, is you're seeing county staff learning these systems more and more. To the point that maybe we can transition away from, you know, the high-priced outsourcing of some of these endeavors. They work at the Emergency Operations Center. You heard a little bit of that earlier. Yeah, there's a need to have somebody with knowledge of those operations, those backup generators, they get involved with, you know, that project. And that's, you know, I think a question I've, you know, got written down for, you know, as we go through the facility director interviews, that's something that individual has the skill set in or not. They did complete the patio renovation. You guys have any feedback on that project? I mean, I don't know if I've gone by there other than to see the trees that were replaced. They're good sized trees. They're not little spindly things, so. Any feedback from the community or anything on that?
quite a bit of feedback on the clock,
Good feedback?
good feedback.
Yeah, that it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got the upgrade over at the courthouse, you know, finished, you know, HVAC systems and components, you know, continue to work on those. As far as the the master campus planning. I think, identified the logistical elements that are, part of this. The key question, is health a separate facility versus is it built into the annex or the, add-on building next to the courthouse? And then, a question with respect to road, does it stay where it is, or does it go out to the landfill? Mike Warren did get back to me with evaluation on the road property. It's a little bit less, quite a bit less than I guess I was thinking it was be. It's in the $3+ million range. It's zoned more for commercial, industrial type property as opposed to residential. Gave him a question, what do you think about rezoning it? I think he's one on the planning commission as well. And he thinks that's what it should be zoned. So I think there's additional value in that respect, going that direction. But it becomes one of those things where you're rezoning your own property or having the city rezone your, another government property and, the politics associated with that.
Yeah, but you have an increase too, if you get that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're, talking with Brad, talking with Jackie about, do you put a facility out there? That'll be something that Kevin, when he's here on the solid waste, meeting on the 13th, that they may already have, I don't know, identify a location on the site, the landfill site in terms of where they might suggest putting that type of facility. But, with, you get that one figured out, all the others, the only real thing from a 20-30 year perspective is this campus out here. Is this, really the place or not? Okay, these are just the performance measures that they've used, and it's an ongoing thing. I mean, one of the key things I think here, the fleet is just part of the asset management goal. The other is there's no tracking, no nothing as it relates to on the facility side of things, the buildings, in terms of what is an appropriate replacement schedule, and are we capturing enough income from those to not just take care of the day-to-day, but replace the floors when you need to replace the floors, or to paint the buildings with the carpet, or any of the major systems in those, and or to build new facilities without having to go out and ask the voters to bond something. And been in this business long enough to know the last thing you want to go ask voters for is bonding just about anything other than facilities that they have no problem saying yes to, fire stations, libraries, that type of thing. But asking for governmental space, that's not met typically with open arms.
Oh, we did pretty good in ours.
You also told them it wouldn't cost them anything. Which is how they expect it to be done, is, it's like, you've got your money, figure it out, don't keep coming back asking for more and more and more, and that, and you're always in that terrible spot when you're asking for something like that. If you don't get it, and you need it, then you're stuck with what you have for a good period of time. We've got that admin assistant done. We've got the facilities director in process. I've talked and heard from Susie and from Brian, and I assume you want to be involved, Seth. So I think, hiring process wise, I'll get something out to where we've got 3 panels. Each of you on a panel with probably 2 different folks. We'll have people out of the sheriff's office, out of the courthouse. Probably somebody out of the library. We'll end up with, like, say, 6 different staff, team members together with 3 of you, 3 different committees as we go through this. We've received about 10, 11 applicants so far. Amy and Brody and I went through those. There's 3 that meet the qualifications. I wouldn't say that any one of the three is like this great match. One of them's, out of Portland, that's coming from an agency with 50 employees, coming down to 5 employees. It's like, that's not normally the way you see that, but Amy's got some questions and be following up with them today and tomorrow to see what their availability is and whether they think it's a good fit, not a good fit. Yeah, I think we're gonna be, are we down the hall for the department head meeting?
Sarah just said we're in here.
Oh, we're in here? Okay.
When does it close?
It closed last Friday. So, and it was really just a first, and I asked her to go ahead and extend it.
Ask for those, see who's those who apply.
Pardon?
I would like to see who applies.
Sure.
I would too.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Yeah, I think you have to across the board.
Hey, I'm trying to get to the next show.
I don't want Brian to get in.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to raise.
Gracie, where?
That was a joke, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
No Brian, so it don't matter.
They all.
Any questions on the facilities? Okay, admin, I'm not sure where she's got these things located. But I don't know that there's much there that you guys aren't aware of. Good morning. Is that fair to say?
You want me to pull it up?
Can you? Yeah. Just show you where we're at budget wise real quick.
Wow.
Being get done. So you're.
I'll tell you what, I'll get you stay for lunch.
Great, thanks, yeah.
The trouble, the potato salad is really good, like, when I'm used to chunks, chunky.
Yes, I do.
And they said that
My son.
No, that's fine. Yeah, and there's no change on these goals or the mission, certainly for the organization admin. Expenses wise for the quarter, a little over budget, just a timing issue related to contract payments. On a personal services basis, we're running 38% of budget again with that, the vacancy in the admin position. And then, we're a little bit over on the materials and services side of things, and that's, been some legal work that we've had done. Staffing summary, as mentioned, the one vacancy that is now filled, so we're up to full staffing. As far as, work that we've done during the quarter, there's been a fair amount of time spent in the HR area working on issues with them, trying to get, things put together on the, reviewing the benefits, the recruiting practices, the processes that we're, doing. The onboarding has been a big talk. You heard some of that from Carrie. I think one of the things we'll reach out to as we bring Christina back on is, if she talked with Carrie, is there some overlap there that we can help her out with, as well as bring in the components that we've got set up for all of our internal service things, and use her kind of as a beta as it relates to how the other departments can all be looking at checklists and onboarding materials.
And you might have, is it Crystal? Am I wrong, Christina, whatever, I know it's a K name. You might have her also check with Stephanie at the Sheriff's Department, because she kind of quit using ours, and maybe to try to establish communication and figure out what is wrong there.
Yeah, will do. Yeah, you got Crystal that's doing HRIS, and then Christina,
Okay, there's too many Ks.
she's a C.
Okay.
Crystal's a K, Christina's a C.
Oh, okay, Christina.
And then there's,
Don't take your name, Christina.
Well, I have a crystal too.
Okay. Did you tell your wife she needs a name change? Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of work done on the vacation accrual policy, getting that, done, getting the comp studies, started. The facilities plan, I think we've identified the alternatives I mentioned just a little earlier. The technology roadmap, getting, Stephen on board, early December, the HRIS responses and evaluated and, implementing the ERP. So a lot of work done in that quarter related to the technology roadmap implementation. Despite the fact that we don't have anywhere close to a full team on the IT, but, still making progress, irrespective. The asset management, it's been, what you can't see up there is I think it's, during that quarter is basically in pause. Brad being on board, we've talked, and he's talked to the departments following up. He's looked at the, information that, Jeff Hurd was able to bring, and then he's kind of just going around and double checking on that. And, he and I talked just briefly about, it's a software, one is a software component, and, Iris is an existing technology that the road department uses. It's also somewhat a legacy system, doesn't talk to anything else that we might have. And it's not something that's readily available to anybody other than road department people. So, we may, have to look at something a little bit different. But that'll be an ongoing discussion based on the needs that are expressed to the departments. But, one thing that I'm seeing, certainly is there is no expertise outside of the road department in terms of maintaining vehicles, and as far as really understanding running them and having the infrastructure to take care of them and monitor them and all that. I mean, it just doesn't exist. So it's something that we've got to do. I mean, we've got millions of dollars of fleet, and then also bringing on the Justice Center, upgrading the courthouse, the new building. I mean, we're going to need to be tracking that stuff much better than what we've done historically. The 5-year plan, I think Jamie's got all those 5 years that were in the original budget document. They've all been updated with the increase or change in property taxes and where those were impacted. And those will be updated, as we go through this process, the budget process for this year. Something that I can just kind of get right into here, that I was going to mention the department head meetings, is we'll get the department head reviews done in March. I'll get some help from Christina and she comes on board. Get the momentum of activity that was initiated in fiscal 24 is to continue that, kind of let up on it, just keep it moving, and get the compensation study, finalized, brought to you, accepted, adopted, and implemented before the end of this fiscal year. Certainly things that we see, as we close out fiscal 24, going to 25 is recruiting an administrator, facilitate that transition.
Or whatever we talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, yep, and then ensure the momentum is maintained. Yeah. Okay, that's all I've got. We might just shut this thing down.
You don't think people want to watch us eat online?
We have to switch to a different video anyway.